Now that you have your drawing complete and the lines are nice and thick with your Sharpie, you're going to use oil pastels that are in your red bucket to add a little bit of emphasis on your owl, but also create a little bit of color and contrast from using oil pastels to watercolors, which we'll do in a few days. So I'm going to speed up this video just to show you what I'm doing with my oil pastels. Please use a variety of color, but don't color in all of your different sections with the oil pastel, because we want to make sure to leave room for some watercolor coming after. Now that I have my owl colored in with some oil pastels, please know I did not color the entire owl in with oil pastels. I left a lot of white room so I can fill that in with watercolor, which I will do in just a minute. You want to keep the background white. Don't really bother with it. If a little bit of your paint goes outside of the edge, no problem at all. We'll cut that out later. So to use watercolors, all you're going to need is one of these red buckets with your paint palettes in them and also a water cup. The water cup needs to stay in the red bucket just in case of any spills. And inside of your water cup you have brushes. In order to start, you're just going to take a paint palette. All of them are a little bit messy, don't mind that. And you're going to dip a little bit of water into each of the colors that you think you're going to use today for your owl. So I'm just getting the colors saturated with water because these are watercolors, of course, and they need water in order to work. Now I'm sure you know this, but the more water you use, the less color comes out onto your paper. So keep that in mind as you work. Now I'm just going to go ahead and fill in all my sections. I can mix up the colors. I can do 2 colors in one section. Whatever I feel like doing for my owl is fine by me. When you are completely finished with your watercolor, you're just going to store your paintbrushes in the water, close your lid on your watercolor, and just stack them nice and neat in the red bucket. Somebody will come around and collect those. And you are going to carefully take your owl, because there's a lot of water on it, over to the drying rack so that it can dry overnight. Don't be afraid to mix colors. You can see that I had a wash of orange on my chest of the owl, and I added in some pink. Same thing I did up here with the green. Have fun with it, experiment a little, and know if a little watercolor comes off of your owl and onto the white, it's not a problem at all, because our next step is to cut and paste it onto our final paper. All right, now that you have your final owl colored and ready to cut out, you're going to use scissors just to cut along the outer edge of your owl. If you want to include his little eyebrow or not, that is completely up to you, but also cut out the tree trunk. All right, so that when you are done with cutting, it looks something like this. So now we need to mat your final owl onto our black paper in order to make it stand out. So I want to go ahead and position my owl nice and perfect on my black paper, noticing that it connects the tree trunk from one side to another. I'm not having half of my tree trunk hang off or anything like that. So what I'm going to do to glue it down is flip it over. Use Elmer's glue, which we are all familiar with. You're just going to use a little bit of glue on the outside edge of your owl. So just doing a nice thin line very quickly. And maybe an X in the middle. Flip over your owl, and this part is the tricky part because you want to make sure that you're lining it up perfectly the first time so that your owl is right in the center. And then press down gently, gently, gently at first with your hands just to make sure everything is in position. I'm not smearing my hands on my owl because I know that oil pastel will get everywhere and I don't want that to happen. Now once I have a pretty good impress down on the front, I'm going to flip it over on my table, and that is where I can use my hands to really get in there and make sure the glue is hitting all of the edges of my owl. While it is flipped over, I can go ahead and write my name on the back because I know my name was cut off of my original paper. And when I flip it back over, I should have a nice and finished piece. The last step is just to take a white colored pencil and add a few details on the background. So I'm gonna show a little time lapse of what I'm gonna do. What you do is completely up to you. The very last step would just be to write my signature on the bottom somewhere. Maybe I put it on the top of the tree trunk, maybe I put it on the bottom right-hand corner, and either my white pencil or my regular pencil, so that people know that this is mine. And there you have it, a finished piece ready for the book fair.